Couple of days we have discussed about the integration pattern. What are the integration patterns are there in Salesforce? Among them, we have discussed SOAP and REST more extensively, right? So, what are the SOAP requests? How we can generate the SOAP request, and with the SOAP mechanism, how we can integrate. And then we have discussed yesterday the REST API details, right? So there we have discussed about the five methods, which are get, post, put, patch, and delete. So these are the common mechanisms which we use in our Salesforce day-to-day practice, and most of the times we create a apex class, and inside the apex class we just if it is an outbound from Salesforce, we generally make the HTTP call out, and if it is an inbound for Salesforce, that means we define an apex REST class and give that apex REST UI or URL or URI to the third-party external system, through which they actually calls and they request with the details, and Salesforce system updates the details, right? Which needs a good amount of work, doesn't it, right? So if you see, if you have been asked to create an apex class, to create the details, to capture the request from external system, you have to create a wrapper class or inner class, then deserialize the JSON format which external system will send you, and then after deserialization you need to update those values with your Salesforce object, which needs a good amount of coding, which needs good amount of time, right? And then you need to put system.debug to get the details, that where is my code failing, where is my code going, everything, right? Yes, that is very much required, but in case if there is a simple mechanism. So today's topic about a simple mechanism which Salesforce gives to you, okay, which is basically lesser time consumer. I mean, I would say compared to REST or compared to SOAP, it will take a lesser time to configure because you do not have to write any code, okay, unless for a very specific scenario. One thing. Second thing is that Salesforce is giving every mechanism as configured inside or as part of the out-of-the-box feature. But these are the two advantages of this particular mechanism, and the mechanism name is outbound messaging. Okay, so if you go to workflow rule today, when we navigate to Salesforce application, we are pretty much familiar with workflow rule. Whenever you need to update a particular field, you need to send a particular mail, you need to just involve this particular actions, you always just first try or first comment from the senior developers or the experts always comes that, hey, create a workflow rule and just do that, right? Because you need to just update a simple field or you need to send a mail, okay? But you can see another option is there under the workflow rule, which is outbound message, right? And we are very less familiar with that particular mechanism because we do not have that particular mechanism useful, as we didn't bother, because some of the time basically we didn't get the requirement, client didn't ask us, and we also actually ignore that because we know that the API mechanisms specifically, it is all about our REST mechanism or the SOAP mechanism, right? So I mean, whoever are familiar, well, good and enough, but whoever are not familiar, so these are the comment from my side. Now so outbound message is a technique which would be Salesforce out of the box feature, and which should be pretty straightforward to configure, to use the Salesforce in using very less time, and to send the details from Salesforce to other system. Okay, so always remember one thing, that Outbound is always basically your a mechanism which I would say which is always outbound. That means the Salesforce is your source system, and from this source system the request will go to the third party system. You create a case. When you create a case, you want this particular case creation details will go or will flow to the third party system. You update a case, you want that particular details, whatever you are updating for a particular case, you want this particular details should flow into the third party system. So if that particular requirement is there, always think about outbound message. Okay, give me a second. If somebody is waiting, let me okay, no. Okay, so now the thing is that before I go and before I just do a deep dive into this particular topic, first just focus on a couple of use cases. Okay, the first use case, I am a sales manager and I'm handling a managerial application which is built in .NET, and it is a legacy application. Okay, and my sales representatives are using a Salesforce system and they handle cases every day. So as a manager, I am not using the Salesforce application. As a manager, I am using my .NET application. Okay, but whoever works under me, they are the sales representative and they are using a Salesforce application. It can be a service cloud, it can be a sales, I mean, it can more specifically cases is meant for service cloud. So you can assume that it's a service cloud system they are using. So what I want that whenever any case will be closed, okay, whenever any sales representative will close a case, my .NET application should be updated. Okay, my .NET application should be updated so that I can get an update at the end of the day. What are the status of the cases? How many cases are closed and who was handling the cases? So I want this many details. If that is the case, what I can do, I can simply create an outbound message, and in this particular outbound message, the workflow rule, whatever I will create, I will simply give a particular equation that when the case status is closed, right? When the case status is closed, can I have a case status over here? Let me check. Yeah, so the case status is new. So I will configure a particular workflow of rule with the outbound message whenever this particular case status will be closed. Okay, so the closed is not over here, so I will just introduce a new pick list value, and whenever any representative will select the close, my outbound message will trigger and that particular details will be sent into my .NET application or my third party application. Similarly, I can send this particular details that who was handling the case, right? And at the end of the day, I can check that, okay, so this many case requests actually came from the service cloud system into my .NET application. So I can easily get an count, right? You do not have to do any complex Apex REST classes, subclasses, anything. Simple, go and configure an outbound message with the workflow rule, and you will be done with this particular use case. Second use case. Let's assume the Cafe Coffee Day, which is renowned, which is famous inside our country, right? And let's assume that they are using Salesforce, okay? And when they are using Salesforce, they do have Salesforce only one particular application, okay? And apart from the Salesforce, what they want that the order data. So every day they are receiving many orders, right? Many type of orders for varieties type of coffees from varieties customers. And what they want basically those particular order data they want to send into the ERP system or an external ERP system, okay? The external ERP system, why do they want? Because a particular organization may have varieties type of application or more than one application. So here my source, the main source application is Cafe Coffee Day, and what I am doing, I am capturing all the orders through my Cafe Coffee Day Salesforce application. Okay, so this Salesforce application can be a community cloud, right? Can be a community cloud, can be a marketing cloud, anything, right? Whatever you can use. Now, if I'm using a marketing cloud, I can capture all these order details whenever any customer actually gives an order. And at the end of the day, or whenever, as per the business requirement, whenever the order get actually created inside my this particular Salesforce marketing cloud application, I will immediately send the order details to the external third party system. And what happened with that? Once they will receive that particular details, they will send me the order number. So I am not generating an order number over here. So basically they will be generating the order number and they will be sending back that particular details to the CCD application. Now your question should be, so is it asynchronous or is it asynchronous? Yes, it can be a synchronous mechanism, but it can be an asynchronous, both the ways. Why? Because the first time when you are sending the details to this third party external system, you do not care that particular order number to receive it immediately. So you do not wait. You do not wait for that particular delivery confirmation. All you wait, all you just do, you request with the details and you forget it. Okay, so that sense it is an asynchronous, but sometimes your client may tell you that, boss, ultimately if the order number doesn't populate, then the transaction you cannot say as a completed. So just you capture the order number from the external third party system and populate that particular order number. Yes, you may have to write a couple of line of code to handle or to get the order number, to stamp that particular order number in your Salesforce. But both the ways, the asynchronous and the synchronous, both basically is supportable by the outbound messaging. Okay, give me a second. Let me check if somebody is waiting, guys. Yeah, give me a second. Okay, so now the third use case. The third use case, what I have, the Vodafone store. We see that the Vodafone store using the Sales Cloud as their sales platform. And what happened every time actually, just we switch our account from Airtel to Vodafone or Idea to Vodafone. What Vodafone needs to intimate three back office system. Okay, what are the back office system? One back office system, they actually stores all the customer demographic details. That means the customer name, customer phone number, the customer address, the customer Aadhaar number, all this. The second back office system is about the plan system. What are the plans basically the customer actually opted for? And earlier, what are the plan the customer had? And then on which particular day customer switched this particular plan from 599 rupees to 399 rupees. So these are the certain back office system which actually Vodafone wants to intimate when a customer registers with them or customer just switch from Airtel or from Idea. And in that time, what can happen if any of the back office system is failed, then they want, or Vodafone system wants that the full customer information to be rolled back. The customer information will not be saved into their main Sales Cloud application. Okay. So, and they want that as part of the single transaction. Just focus on this particular word, a single transaction. I am a Vodafone sales representative. I opened my application, and once, let's assume that this is my Vodafone application. I'm capturing all the details, and when I'm capturing, my requirement is that when I'll save this particular details, I want At the same time, two more system to be updated. One system is a customer demographic details, okay, that might be built in .NET, and one system is your customer plan details that might be developed in Java. Now, what happens, suppose there is some problem while the customer demographic information, while that is being saved, that particular application was not available, or that there is some connection issue. So what I want, I do not want the full transactions or full records should be saved over here. I want the full details should be automatically rolled back from the front end as well as from the back end. So everything is basically a total accumulation of a single transaction. And while single transactions, if one system is getting failure, then what I want basically everything to be rolled back. So in this case, actually, you can use the Salesforce outbound messaging. Okay. Now your question should be how we can configure that, how we can just do that for this particular mechanism. If one particular failure happen, how I can roll it back. Certainly you can handle it, but the handle mechanism will not be straightforward. Okay, so you have basically you need to have different URL for different backend system. Once you have different URL, you can create two outbound messaging, and you can combine those particular two outbound messaging with another outbound message workflow. So couple of workflow rules you may configure and just particular take care about this particular requirement. Okay, so these are the three use cases which I thought to discuss with you about the outbound messaging. Okay, now your question can be that can't I configure a REST API? Can't I configure a SOAP API? Yes, certainly you can do that. There are no harm and there are no obstacles, or there won't be anyone to stop you to configure the REST API. But as part of the best practices, as part of your life, just making easier, okay, try to adhere this particular what outbound messaging, because what will happen if outbound messaging, it's if tomorrow somebody comes and tells you, hey, I do not want when a case status is being closed, that time I will send a request. Instead of that, when I want my case status being escalated, that time I want to send that particular request. So you just go and change the workflow rule, and in that workflow rule you activate, right? There is no need to the deployment, the class change, the test class modification, nothing you need, right? So now these are the use cases. Now I'm coming back. Give me a second. Let me make in somebody. Okay, so now come just let's go some deeper into the outbound messaging structure. I have shown you that when you would be calling the SOAP API, that time there are various methods. When you will generate a SOAP API enterprise WSDL, you can have many methods: the login methods, the log out, log off method, then your query method, query more method, then your is updatable. Many methods are there. Okay, so similarly, outbound message internally, it is a SOAP call. Always remember, outbound message is always a SOAP call. Okay, it will actually take helps from this notification method. Okay, so if you go and if you check this particular SOAP mechanism, right, in this SOAP mechanism, if you see, these are the WSD, these are the methods basically got generated when I created my enterprise WSDL, right? And here, basically, apart from this all methods, outbound message actually takes help like a similar kind of method which is not exposed over here, which you cannot get a sense, but that particular method is an internal method which Salesforce actually use, and that is nothing but your notification method. And so it is always a notification SOAP API call. A single SOAP message can include up to 100 notifications. 100 notifications means a single SOAP message you can create a 100 details or 100 type of details or 100 notification details. The third point, which is very, very important, once you create a particular SOAP request, then what will happen if the failure happens? Sometimes the third party system may not be available. Sometimes the connection between the third party system may be broken. So what will happen if the request message, if the case details won't be able to transferred into the third party system? That time this will sit inside the queue, and this will keep trying to go from your queue to the third party system if that is within 24 hours. If it is after 24 hours, the request message will be dropped off from the queue automatically. Okay, so this is the meaning of all this sentence, that if the response from the other party is not okay, then it will try to resend the same message which are 24 hours old. If it is more than 24 hours, that particular message will be dropped. Okay, and that won't be tried again and again. And the last thing, okay, so what happens, so once I send a notification message from my outbound message, so what happened, I am sending a particular SOAP message. So I told you at the very beginning that it can be asynchronous. I can send and I can forget. But if my requirement says that no, I need to wait for the response and I need to capture the response, this is the response the notification will give you. Okay, so they will always give you the element name is acknowledged and type is equal to XSD boolean. That means they will say that the acknowledgement type is equal to true. Okay, so if type is equal to true, they will send back or they will respond back. That means my request notification message is successful. Hope I'm pretty clear on this now. Give me a second. Somebody is waiting. Yes. So now this is the all theoretical perspective of your outbound messaging. Now your question should be that how I can go and I can create all this. This is pretty straightforward. Okay, so you have your personal org. You can easily just check this particular thing. You are into your personal org and go to setup. Okay, and inside the setup, give me a second. So if you are inside your setup and where was I was into here. Okay, so first what you need to do, you need to go to workflow rules. Okay, so now if you go to workflow rules, so you can see that you can create a number of workflow rules over here. Try to create a simple workflow rule. Okay, if you try to create a new rule, it will give you the details that what particular object details actually you would like to send to the third party system or to the external system. Create any, I mean, just take for example anything. Okay, so let's assume that I will be taking case. Okay, because that's what my first use case, right? That whenever my status will be closed, I would like to send that particular details, and that particular details I need to send to the .NET application which I was handling as a Salesforce manager or a sales manager, right? So now there are three options, evaluation criteria, which you must be familiar if you are using Salesforce in a couple of years or a couple of months. One is created, and every time it is edited and created, and any time it's edited to subsequent meet criteria. So let's give it created and every time it is edited. Okay, so if you give that particular thing, then what will happen? You will get the rule criteria. Let's give that the case origin. Okay, or not case owner, you just give case origin. Case origin equal to give what are the options I have: phone, email, and web. So let's give web. Okay, so insert this particular details and save and next. Okay, Once I did that, you come to this particular section over here. Okay, so in this particular section, I'm not going to the time dependent and all those things. Okay, so now come to this action. So my criteria is that whenever a case would be created or whenever a case would be edited, or that means the case would be updated, that time if somebody changes the case origin equals to wave, or when I would be creating the first time the case, that time if I will set the case origin as web, I would like to send some outbound message. So come over here. You must be familiar the new task we can create, new email alert we can send through workflow rule. Then we can do a field update, which I told, and this time the new outbound message. So just go to the outbound message section and configure the outbound message. Give any num as you like over here. And then there is a section called endpoint URL, right? Because endpoint URL is required over here because it is an outbound. It is an outbound. For any outbound, you need to do a call out, correct? And when any call out is required, you need to set an endpoint. Whether you use REST, SOAP, you need to have a particular endpoint. So here also it is the same way, but I do not have any particular endpoint URL. So I just searched Google, and there are a couple of free website available like Hookbean, right? So Hookbean is a third-party system or third-party endpoint provider, you can say. So you just create a new endpoint with this particular Hookbean, and there are service bean and all those stuff, many things are available. So for the simplified things, I just use this particular thing, the Hookbean, and let's go back and set this particular endpoint over here. That's it. Okay, whatever Hookbean actually provides, I have set it over here. For real time, whenever you would be trying to do the same thing, the third-party system or the external system, they will be giving this particular URL. Okay, so you do not have to worry, you do not have to bother. You just all dependent on the third-party system. They will give you the details. You just copy and paste the same details over here, and that's it. You are done. And now, what are the details you want to send? You can send this many details. Now, you can create a particular whatever the workflow rule actually give you the feasibility. Okay, so workflow rule is now for the case we are or we can see all the custom field and all the standard fields basically is available, right? So if it is not available, you cannot do anything. And just all the criteria is that you have to make that particular field available. So let's assume and select all the fields and add it. Okay, and that's it. You are done with your outbound messaging, and save it. Okay. So once you save this particular thing, this unique name is already existed. So just paste OOB. Okay. So now save it. Once you save this, do not forget to do what? Do not forget to do this activate, right? Unless it is activated, it won't give you any result. Okay, so that's all. So if the rule name is case OB, rule criteria case origin equals to web, just all I'm doing outbound message I am configuring. And what are the outbound message I am sending? What are the message details? These are the message details because I have selected all it. Okay, so these are the message details. Now your question should be that send session ID. Okay, so what happened? Do I need to session ID? So now this is completely dependent on the third party system which you are trying to integrate. If they want the session ID, okay, because sometimes what happen, the requirement can be a synchronous mechanism. So that time they would be capturing, they need to send the response details once they will receive all these. So while they will send or they will try to send back the response, that time they need to connect into our Salesforce system. While they will try to connect, they need some authentication mechanism where they can get it through this particular session ID. Okay, so in that case, you can make a tick mark and you can send them, hey, I am sending you the session ID. You just use this particular session ID and send us the response back. That's it. So my total request response will become synchronous instead of a asynchronous mechanism. And that's it. Your things is done. Now what will happen? Let's do and try to create or try to just update a particular case origin as web. So I am over here, so I am just control C, and if you see over here, um, if you see, there is no response actually came. This is completely blank, right? So what I'm doing, I'm just coming over here, and this particular case I'm just opening, and this case origin is core. Okay, let's make it to.
Hi, Santa. We are not able to see the screen. Are you sharing the screen?
Yes, I am.
No, not able to see the screen.
Uh, Actually, Santa, I am able to see.
Yeah, I am. I mean, this is you're presenting to everyone. I can see that it is giving the option the stop presenting. Then shall I reshare that? Okay, let me do a resharing, guys. Stop and then go to present now, your entire screen, and reshare. Can somebody confirm me? Is it good, bad, anything?
Wait, maybe Rupa, this due to internet slowness, it will come, right? Just wait.
Confirm me, guys. If it is visible now,
Yeah, visible now.
Yep,
can you
we can
see?
see.
No, I can't see the screen. I am able to see Kutala Sivaram,
Oh,
that
really?
image. The person's image you are seeing, not your screen, Santa.
Mm,
Probably Rupa, you can rejoin that session probably because we are able to probably see that screen.
Okay, sure. I'll rejoin the session.
Please rejoin the session. Whoever not able to see the screen.
oh, what is the screen basically you were able to see now, Danik? Use case 2?
Use case two. Yeah, yes.
Okay, then it's perfect from my end.
No problem. Just please join in again. Just please admit us. That's it.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, so here we are, right? So the case origin basically I have changed to web, and that's all. That's all my requirement actually says, that whenever any case would be created or any case would be edited and updated with this case origin as web, I need to send all the details, right? So where we go, if I will just set the origin, okay, so web, and save this. Okay, so once I save this, just refresh this. Once I refresh this, you can see all the details. See here. So if it is not visible, I can help you over here. I can go and I can just paste it into my Sublime. So hope now this is perfectly visible, right? So now if you can see here, the case origin is web and the case number is 1043. So you can see that which particular case I have handled, that is 1043, right? So this is a simple example basically. Now the question is that what happened, as I told into my previous slide, that anytime a notification method would be called, right, a notification would be called, the response message actually it sends, the soap wants to send a response message like this, because the external system needs to reply back or needs to acknowledge this. So this particular acknowledgement will always come whenever you will be using this particular outbound messaging. And if you do not handle this response, then this particular outbound message will get errored out. Okay, how you can see that how my outbound message is behaving? Go to setup, and inside the setup you can just navigate into outbound messaging, outbound message. So there is a section called monitoring outbound message, right? So go over here, and if you go to monitoring outbound message, you can see that this is not successful. This got errored out. Why this got errored out? Okay, so see here. So just now 6:09:08 a.m. So this is my EST time zone actually. Okay, so my org actually set it with the EST time zone, and EST time zone is currently 9 a.m. Okay, so in this particular 9 a.m. I just created and I got a response that delivery failure. Okay, because this particular response which actually sent by this hook bean, I have not handled it. If I will handle this particular notification response, then this will show me as a success. As I am not handling that, this is showing me as a failure. And you can see that when is the next attempt? 9:12 a.m. So within 24 hours, this will try to hit again and again. Okay, you can just this will again and again, it will try to hit the external system, and it will always think that you give me the response, I'm waiting for your response, you give me the acknowledgement, I'm waiting for your acknowledgement. Unless you handle that acknowledgement, okay, you would be getting always this particular error in monitoring section. Okay, and after 24 hours this particular thing should be automatically dropped from this particular queue. So now it is 9:08 a.m. and when it would be 7/9/2020 and 9:08 a.m. tomorrow, that time it won't be there anymore. Okay, so this is all about your outbound messaging and basics and a brief about outbound messaging. Okay, and that's all basically I need to have give the demo. Now you can ask me any question if you have, otherwise I'm done.